Hello everyone, I'm Gottwald from OldLinionMC, and today I will be giving a part 2 to our World Edit Terraforming tutorial. So we have a nice blank open canvas to work with here, and I'll show you. This is part of our Hunger Games map that we've been working on for quite a while. And here I'll show you one of the other domes, which I don't think anyone has shown you yet on Planet Minecraft even, or anything. Alright, so, and all the domes started off blank sheet. We have this dome here, which, as you can see, it had quite a bit of terraforming done to it to get, to such a good state. I have been playing a lot of LOL, so I can press the E button. Alright, so let's go back over to the other dome. Alright, in this dome, what we want to do is we're going to go for like a different biome in this dome. It's going to be snowy. We're going to have one big hill, or maybe one big hill and a few other small hills to make a nice range that's going to be covered in snow, and we're going to make a nice fort on top. So we need to make a fairly large hill that will encompass this entire area. Now I know my brother Euroleth was messing around with voxel sniper, and that's what this hill's from, and I promise at some point I will learn how to use voxel sniper and I will show you guys, but that's for another day. Alright, so again, this is going to be the basics still, but hopefully I'll show you guys a few different things that I didn't show you in the last video. Alright, so as we all know, we get out our tools, and if you haven't seen my last video, I'll put the link in the description and all that good stuff. But we got to get a bunch of different tools out to start our world edit with. Right. I'm not going to really much worry about getting rid of this mountain, because I think what we're going to build is going to be taller than this, hopefully. So the first thing we do when we're terraforming a larger area that really needs a lot of work done is to basically just fill in the area to a designated height. Now, because we can do fun things in this area, like have different lakes and stuff, I'll fill most of the land up to about where the tunnel comes in, except for the areas where I'm going to put the lakes. And I'll time lapse all this so you can see how it's done fairly quickly. And as we know, we want to go / brush sphere sand. The other thing that will be shown in this video that wasn't shown in the last video is we're going to be using a whole lot of masks, and hopefully I'll be able to explain masks a little bit better in this video. Masking basically is when you have a certain sphere that you only want to take up one type of block. For example, I can set the mask to mask air. And if I were to go up to this, mountain that my brother's built over here, and I was to simply do something like this, you can see that what was not air has remained, the dirt and the grass and stone. And I'm going to time lapse this. Oh, and I forgot to do 5. Again, 5 is as big as I can go. Obviously, you can go bigger. When filling in such a large amount of land like this, especially if you're not in a dome, I suggest going a lot bigger than 5 if the server you're on allows it. And obviously, if you're on a single player game, you'll be able to go pretty much as large as you want, as long as you get everything, downloaded right, and you got the right files for it. So I'll time lapse this, and I'll be right back. Now, I've just thought of an easier way to do this. When you're doing a really, really large area, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in, some areas where there's some divots. I'm going to show you guys something that did not show you in the last video. So. Be right back. Alright, so what I'm going to show you is the fill command. So it goes like this. You do the // fill, and then I'm going to go sand, and then we're going to go, I'm going to want it quite large, so I'm going to go 50. And it fills the entire area, up to a radius of 50 that I've selected. Now, because we're filling in such a large area, I'm going to be doing this a bit. And as you can see, it just fills one up from where you are. And I will be right back once I've covered everything in a lot of sand. Alright, so that's how you do that. It was pretty convenient, especially for something like this, to use the fill. The fill isn't always the opportune tool, obviously because it extends however far the radius is, unless you have something to block it off. For filling up areas, though, obviously fill is a very effective tool. I'm going to finish the rest by hand with the little world edit sphere. I'm going to make the base for a lake in this back corner over here, so that's why I'm switching over to the tools now. Alright, so besides the obvious cliffs that I built here for where we're going to have a little bit of a lake, everything's kind of a little, edgy through these little crevices areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different tool. I'm going to decide to go with the iron hoe, and I'm going to use the smooth tool. So brush, smooth. Right. Now the thing about the smooth tool in this area is it's difficult to use because the glass gets in the way, and I'll accidentally smooth the glass, and then I'll have water coming in. So an easy way to fix that is to go mask, sand. That way I won't be interrupting anything except for sand. I won't be changing anything except for sand. Now the thing that for some reason the smooth does here is it does kind of make an edge. That can be fixed easily. Alright, so now that we've made our canvas as we want it, we're going to start by making the main mountain. I'm going to base it off this little, what's left of this mountain that my brother made, just so that we know we kind of hide that whole thing. Not that it wasn't good, but, it was him just practicing with voxel sniper. So, oh, and the other thing is, I didn't really explain it, but when when you're building cliffs, sand definitely is the best thing to build cliffs with. Why did that happen? The other thing with cliffs is you want to try to keep the smoother away from it, because at small radiuses, smoothers really destroy cliffs, which is unfortunate. The fact that the server has such limitations. Maybe I will show a cliff making tutorial on my personal world at some point, just so you guys can get a better a few different techniques for building cliffs. But I find that the sand technique, especially if you are in servers, a lot of servers do have certain restrictions with world edit, just because owners of servers don't want people going absolutely nuts. So if you want, I will show you how to build cliffs with bigger radiuses, but for all intents and purposes, I'd have to say that I really don't think, especially if you're building a server, you're going to need the other methods of creating cliffs. Alright, something else to keep in mind when you're building a mountain range. You never want just one mountain or one line of mountains. Try to make the range thicker, and try to make it as lifelike as possible. If you look at mountain ranges, yes, on the map overall through a large area, they tend to be just one line. But if you were to look at a photograph of said mountain range, you probably wouldn't see just one line of mountains. They usually do have smaller foothills surrounding the mountains. And try to keep this in mind, because Minecraft really is, when you're using it correctly, a way to try to portray the real world. That's why more detailed, more in-depth builds look better. Why when you're doing, for instance, a desert build, and you put a button on the side of the house, it imitates structure and the support. Or when you use logs, it the logs, it imitates the structural support that you would find on a real building. It makes it look more lifelike. And at least my goal in Minecraft is to make things look as lifelike as they possibly can. So adding a foothills around your large mountains, I think, makes them look more realistic and more lifelike. It gives a better flavor to the build. Alright, so this, I think, will be the entire base for the main mountain that I'm going to create. And we're going to put kind of a fort type castle on top of this. Not very extravagant, more of a militarized type look to it. Pretty basic walls with a nice kind of support area. That's it's not going to be one of these illustrious builds that you may have if you've gone on our planet Minecraft. It's not going to be one of the very, very illustrious builds. If you go onto the OldLinionMC planet Minecraft, and you were to look at the lost builds, you were to look at the castle that's in there. It's not the best picture of that castle. I actually have a better one, but Aki is kind of heading the Planet Minecraft thing, but I'm going to send him the photo because it's a lot better. It shows it. The castle's not finished at the time I took the picture, but I think it illustrates the castle a lot better. And as I was saying, this isn't going to be one of those very in-depth, detailed castles. It's just going to be simple, but still visually pleasing. Because I just feel that in this Hunger Games map, a very fancy, royal, palacey type build just wouldn't fit its characteristics. Speaking of which, this Hunger Game map we've been working on for a very long time. Me and my brother originally started building this for the PMC, Hunger Games, contest, but we never finished it in time because we were fairly close and we lost all of the map. We lost the map completely, and it was like 2 days till we had to turn it in, and we kind of just lost our spirit. We didn't finish it. Now it's been quite a few months on end that we've been working on this build, and I think it's so much better than it ever would have been had we handed it in for the project, if for the competition. And we wouldn't have won the competition. There were some really amazing builds, amazing maps on that. Not that we were really aiming to, we just kind of wanted to enter. But I really have to say, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen those maps, or maybe you just don't play the Hunger Games, check out those maps. Those maps were really something else. Alright, so I don't want to build this mountain too big. But now we're going to add little foothill areas, just kind of raise everything up, make things a little bit more terrain-like. And I did this a little bit over here. Just when you're designing a layout for an area, keep in mind the buildings that you're going to build, and we're really just going to have one castle that's on the top here. So I did make it fairly large. I gave enough room to, maybe do, I don't know, like a wall there, out and around, just, classic hill fort type look. The other thing you have to keep in mind, which I'm about to do right now, is you kind of have to make some way to get up the mountain. You have to make some sort of curvature to it. So I'm not going to do that yet, actually. I'm going to wait till I smooth everything out, but I'm going to smooth everything out once I put the foothills down. Now, when you're doing foothills, you don't necessarily need to do the mountains, right? You don't need to have the foothills necessarily touching the main build, but for example, I could say put one here. And this one will touch, but it's not necessary that they do. I just find that foothills make a mountain more, obviously the biggest mountain, it kind of, when you look at a mountain range, for example, the white caps that are in Vermont, or not Vermont, New Hampshire, the white caps that are in New Hampshire, Mount Washington. When you look at those mountains, Mount Washington visibly sticks out because it's the biggest mountain, because it looks the most illustrious. And when you're building a mountain range in Minecraft, you kind of want to apply the same, thought process. Not that someone really had a thought process when the mountains were formed, but you kind of want to say, well, I want this mountain to stick out. I want this mountain to be different. So I made it, fairly large. I might add even a little bit more to it, but I want it to be the centerpiece. I find that in Minecraft, centerpieces are one of the most important things. When you're doing such a large build, for example, the city of Cave Eye, which is the build that we just finished and we've been going on forever, which was the spawn build. I did a kind of cinematic type thing for it. There were only a couple centerpieces in the whole build, but you didn't really. I wasn't going in and focusing on the individual houses. Yes, the houses are nice, especially within the trade district, which I did all by hand, and it was a nightmare. But they look the best. I would consider them a centerpiece. I would consider the palace we did a centerpiece. I would consider the mosque a centerpiece, and the bathhouse. But those were the only centerpieces. There are tons and tons and tons of buildings within, that map. There are so many buildings. I can't even count them all. At one point, we were trying to, count to see, how many buildings we were going to make. But there are literally thousands of houses in that build, and we just kind of at some point were like, well, screw it. We're not going to count all these houses. But the centerpieces is what drove the build. The centerpieces are what make that build cool. If it was just a bunch of houses, I don't really think it would have been. I wouldn't be as proud of that build as I am of it as is. So, keep in mind when you're building in Minecraft that you need centerpieces. You need something that stands out to make it look good, but you also need the backdrop. You also need the standard. You also need, something to even out the amazing with the not so amazing. Now, I'm not saying that's always true when you're doing a big standalone project. Like, for example, if you're just doing a huge palace in the middle of nowhere that you need to just look amazing, well, I mean, then that's fine, but in my personal opinion, I think it looks better if you can put, like a small city or a small town off to the side, maybe, of the big build. I think it just puts things in perspective, and that sometimes can make all the difference in Minecraft. Alright, so I'm going to now go to another tool, and I'm going to go brush smooth 5. And it is going to take me a really long time to smooth all this out, but I will be back after I do. And remember, when we're smoothing, I like to just click once. This way it avoids things getting really messed up, and you can use the undo. Oh my god. Like right now. Alright, so as I said earlier, what I just did was I forgot to set the mask. And as I said earlier, the mask is one of the most important parts when dealing with things that you kind of don't want to touch with a smooth. So, alright. And again, it does put that weird, I don't know why it does that, but if you seem to be running into a similar problem, my only suggestion is fill it back up and just maybe going by hand. I've ended up having to go in by hand a few times in the other domes and just, manually edit it. Alright, so I'm going to use the fill again to just kind of even out this area. And I'm using a smaller radius because I don't want to fill up a very large area with this. Fill, I find, when trying to smooth out an area, especially if, for example, if you want to do a very, very large build and you don't have a smooth place to do it, sometimes it can really, mess up the build. I've recently, me and Nick did a build for spawn that was not the big spawn that you saw us do, because we did that in Flatland and just moved it to a different area. Did I say his real name? I don't know if I just said his real name, but he hates when I do it. So me and Aki, we were doing this build. We're still working on it a little bit, but we did it up on a hill, and we were doing this castle for this guy, and I originally was going to go in and edit a hillside that we were doing it on a little bit more, but Aki just kind of went ahead and did it, and there's uneven parts of the build, which I don't particularly like. I just, when a build's kind of along the mountainside, just going up and down, up and down, up and down, it's not horrible. You can still work around it, but it does make building a little bit more difficult. So trying to avoid that the best I can with this build. As you can see, it's unavoidable, and on even the other domes, it has happened. But trying to avoid a very big variant in the height is you don't want to be building right, unless you're going for that look, you don't really kind of want to be building into a cliff and have your build all over the place. But I think that's good for the most part. Again, using the fill tool, we're gonna use the fill tool to fill this area. Now, this is gonna be a snowy biome. It's gonna be a snowy biome. This whole dome is gonna be snowy. So I want to make this lake out of ice with a little bit of kind of runny water coming down from this angle. So the first thing we do when we want to do a water type thing is we always do, if there's going to be a waterfall, we always do that first. Or at least I always do that first. So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit, and you can do this too. It's where you go brush, air, 2. Let's go 3. Why didn't that work? I forgot to put sphere. I always do that. So brush, sphere, air, 3. And yeah, okay. That will be the base. That will be the base for our little bit of water that's going to go here. So, fill. Now, for running water, you want to use an 8. Alright, I got an idea. So the thing about fill is, if there's a hole in what you're filling, we'll do that, like what we just saw. So I'm going to close this off, and then I'm going to do this. And of course that's going to let off that drain first. Alright, so again, take the tool that we made a little dent with, or any tool really, and we're just going to change the dimension to 1. And, we're making waterfalls. Sometimes using the world edit to do it is not always the best option. Now I'm going to add some ice around this area. I'm not going to use world edit to do it, but for this build we need ice, so I'm going to do it. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more cliffy type stuff. That's the smoothing. Alright, so I'm going to add some more cliffs. Now, I don't know if I explained the cliffs enough earlier. When you're doing cliffs, you want to allow the sand to fall. So you want to kind of try to, build off an area. Once you build it up, you kind of want to build off of an area, but you still kind of want to have the sphere floating in the air. So when you're building cliffs, you want to build something up to the desired height and then build the cliffs out. So, for example, I'm going to take off this hill, and once the cliffs get going, you can just work cliffs off the cliff. But the falling sand gives a very, very good cliff texture. One of the best I've used. I've seen people do it other ways. I'm not particularly impressed with some of the other ways people do it. Again, it all comes down to personal preference. Maybe in a later video I'll show you some of the other ways to do cliffs. Alright, so for this I'm going to use the fill command again. And it's going to be a frozen over lake. I'm going to fill it mostly up with water and then do a layer of ice above the water to kind of give an area where people can go underneath the water. Maybe we'll put some chests there for the OldLinionMC map. I think that'd be neat. So we'll do that real quick. And again, we use 8 for running water. Alright, so the last step for making a frozen over lake is to outline the waterfall with some ice. Now, the reason we do this is not only so people can go underneath the ice if they want to, but I find that it looks a little bit classier, a little bit better, than to just kind of, say we have a lake without a waterfall. I think it just looks a little bit nicer on bigger lakes to have a waterfall than to not. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm rambling. Sorry, guys. Now, I don't know the character for ice. I'm hoping that I can just do ice. Yeah, look at that. Everything works out in the end. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Hopefully I'll have a part 3 to the World Edit series coming up very soon. And I promise not to do the thing where I freak out for 4 months and it's summer and all that stuff. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like this type of, longer tutorial, I know it was very long and I apologize for that. But if you like the World Edit tutorial, comment. I want to hear what you guys have to say about videos like this and about our videos in general. It's always a good thing. And, as always, I've been Gottwald from OldLinionMC, and have a beautiful day.